Have you read a good book lately? Maybe you're in a rough spot creatively, and other forms of creative search are just not quite doing it for you. The reason for these questions is because when you are creatively down, picking up a good book can be really good for you. To illustrate, I'll be sharing why books can foster and boost your imagination, how creativity sparks new thoughts or inspirations, and how reading books in depth can give you more details than what is being skimmed over. According to the World Literacy Foundation, reading enhances imagination, March 8, 2021, they quote that reading helps us practice imagination by letting the words describe a certain image while the reader manipulates the picture in the mind. That is the most glorious thing about reading books. The description of characters or the time, maybe even the places where the characters are set in that the author is setting you in is pretty creative. For example, imagine this. From Catherine Stockett's The Help from page 237, we step out onto the blacktop, feel that heat covering us. I got the paper sack in one hand, May Mobley's hand in the other, and we trudge across the steaming black lot. Grid lines make it like we on a charcoal grill, roasting like corn cobs. The fundamental part about that is that she painted it out for the reader to analyze and picture the characters going through the hot Mississippi heat. Her use of simile to describe that part was a great example to paint the picture through and go into depth about it. Speaking of going into depth, let's use another example. Who's read Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone? What? Sorcerer's Stone. No, that's the movie. I'm talking about the book. Well, the book has more in depth than what the movie leads on. For example, according to Stephanie Ash from Insider, June 27, 2022, she shares a list of book depth versus movie depth, and partway down we notice an interesting side character that is relevant throughout the Wizarding World series. We come across Mr. Filch. Can anyone tell me who he was? That's right, he is Hogwarts caretaker, but can anyone tell me what he was? Magical, non-magical, or both? Well, Stephanie explained in her article that Mr. Filch is in fact a squib, in which he is a non-magical person born to at least one magical parent. It is pretty interesting how you get introduced to new literary terms from different backgrounds, how you get to know what a character's background is like, and who they are through context. Feeding you knowledge about who the character is so that they are memorable when they show back up later in the series, so you're like, oh hey, I remember that guy, he's the squib that was seen earlier on in the book. Let's look at it through a different source of literacy, through the eyes of theater. Hamilton, at some point in the show, we see the big three reunite. Hamilton, Eliza, and Angelica saying their hellos in the song Take a Break, but listening very closely, unless you're a complete theater nerd and love to read the script, we are actually missing someone. Oh, Peggy, what happened? Well, then I guess we will never know. Wait. Ellen Elliott, author of Hamilton and Peggy, published February 2018 on page 411, says that she died at the age of 43. Why didn't Lin-Manuel Miranda include that in the play? That's important because she also mentions in her book that Hamilton was actually in Albany for legal matters and stayed with her till she died. I guess important stuff gets missed in literature quite often, but I guess there wasn't just enough room because she actually faded away into the background throughout their lives. Isn't it neat though, finding interest in a character who everyone knows little about be researched and incorporated in creative writing? How every detail about who these heroines are and how they acted can be explained in detail? How their strong minds and ideas can be incorporated into our own creative ideas and lifestyles? Creativity is something that we all naturally are able to do. Do you find yourself in a creative slump every once in a while, and maybe you need a little push in the right direction to get that flow going again? The book buff, Does Reading Improve Creativity, explains it like this. Generally speaking, reading improves creativity in two ways. Firstly, you learn from others' experiences and adapt the learning to your environment to create something unique. Secondly, the act of reading activates and exercises different areas and functions in your brain that enables creativity. I think that plays really well into such ideas and executions. For example, you're reading the manga The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time by Akira Himekawa. You get introduced to all the main characters on the cover art on page 39. Well, that inspiring photo leads you to want to do a fan redraw of them and show what it's like in your art style to others. So you start to brainstorm ideas that would work with your drawing style. This is actually working, pulling you through that slump, and then boom. You have worked both your creative idea and your mind to do what you wanted to do with the inspiration of cover art. Reading can introduce you to many different forms of art, literature, and ideas that your creative mind can do and comprehend. We went over how reading can boost and foster your imagination, help you analyze depth, and picture what whomever is describing, and how creatives can be inspired and create wonderful works of art and books. So next time you aren't feeling like looking at your phone, stressed out, or in a creative slump, make some tea or something of your favorite beverage, start reading a good book, and fall into the fantasy of the new to you reality through literature.